Allison Rosen. Allison Rosen is your new best friend. Allison, with her good times never end. Allison Rosen, doing the wavy pencil dance again. Allison's your new best friend.
Hey everyone. Hi, hello. Welcome to another exciting episode of Allison Rosen is your new best friend. I am delighted to welcome back to the show comedian, raconteur, podcaster, guy with a new album out called Purple Shasta Raccoon, which is very funny. Please put your hands together for Greg Proops. Hello, hello.
Hi, Allison. Hi, Rosenettes.
Wonderful to have you back. Also joining us, producer Tony Thaxton.
I'm here.
My husband is fucking a pen.
What? You're no relation to a DJ named Lloyd Thaxton, are you?
I am not. I know that. That's a old school. Wait, he was a DJ? I thought he was an old TV guy.
He was kind of the Dick Clark of LA when I was a little kid. My sister used to watch his show, and he had all the bands on. It was an afternoon dance party show in Los Angeles in the 60s, and his name was Lloyd Thaxton, and he's the only other person I can think of with the name Thaxton.
Yeah, I never encounter that last name ever, and a few years ago discovered who he was, but yeah, no relation.
He had kind of a square haircut, but his show was pretty groovy, as I recall. I mean, mind you, I was like 5 or whatever.
Right. Everything's groovy when you're 5.
Oh,
I need to see this square.
Anytime there's teenage girls when you're a little kid, it's like good times.
I need to see this square haircut.
Right? I'll have to dig up Lloyd Thaxton here to see if I can find his...
Thank you for that drop, Tony. It took me a second to place it. It was Wendy Molyneux talking about how much her husband loves these Sharpie metal chassis body pens that he waxed poetic about on a recent episode. Okay, so lots of stuff to get into. I must first recount for you a conversation that just happened that I overheard in my house. So as we record this, it is December 23rd. It's Christmas Eve. So Daniel and my mother-in-law's in town. Daniel, my husband, is heading out to run some errands, and his mom says, "Be careful, watch out, there's a lot of crazies on the road." And because no matter how old you are, when your mother tells you to do something, you turn into a teenager, he goes, "No, there's not." And she says, "Yes, there are." And he goes, "There's no one left in town right now. Everyone left." And she goes, "The only people left are the crazies."
Right?
I don't even know how I feel about this conversation, but the whole thing, it amused me greatly, both sides of it. So beware of crazies if you're on the road at all. And then my other thing is, does anyone here have fish tank knowledge? Greg Proops, have you ever had an aquarium or anything?
Not since I was a child, and even then, I didn't. I wasn't. I had to clean it every once in a while. That's as much. And it didn't even have one of those. Remember the sexy air pumps that had the weird diver that the bubbles came out of?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have that. We just had a regular aquarium or whatever.
Okay, Tony, any fish tank knowledge?
Pretty much same as Greg, only he has a child. But he's got one up on me. I never had to clean it, so.
Okay.
Really?
All right.
You lazy ass.
Yeah. Oh, you privileged
Spoiled.
Thaxtons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we want to get Owen, or Santa is going to get Owen a fish tank. I figured this is not that big a deal to like deduce what to get. I went to Burbank Scales and Tails, which is like what you imagine a reptile owner. Every single person in that store is that guy. Like black shirt, kind of long hair, body piercings, tattoos, and they probably play D&D to a man and also to a woman. Every single, like I was in the fish tank section and there was a woman just sitting there holding a snake, and it was like its little head was hissing and it was leaning over the arm that I had to walk past, and I'm like, what if it jumps out at me? I don't know how snakes operate. So I from far away I said, "Excuse me," and she's like, "Oh," and she turned. It was sort of treacherous. And then there was a cricket just hopping around the ground, and there was like 500 birds. I don't know. It was a very surreal experience, but a lot needs to go into what size tank to get. And then I'm hearing so many conflicting things from there's what the store told me, specifically a guy named Derek. There's what Derek has told me. And then there's what my listeners have told me. And then there's what Reddit says. And they all are different. So what I'm telling myself is this must mean you can't go wrong or you can't go right. I don't know. What should I do?
I think a fish tank is an excellent gift for a small boy, is it?
Yes.
Because the fish are fascinating and they, you can watch them for hours. They're very diverting. And are you going to go tropical and get the colorful ones or whatever? Or are you just going to go traditional and get like goldfish?
So the world of fish enthusiasm has changed quite a bit from when we were kids. Because when I was a kid, you got a goldfish, you stuck it in a bowl, you called it a day. Or a betta fish and put it in a bowl. Nowadays, it's regarded as like inhumane to keep them in a bowl. You need a tank with a filter and you need the whole setup no matter what you're getting, which I did not. I mean, as of like when we first started thinking about doing this months ago, that's when I learned that I was essentially it was like I was going to keep a puppy in a cage or something. PETA would have come knocking on my door. So now we're involved in the world of tanks and filters and heaters and lights, the whole thing for like one betta fish. I'm thinking we're going to start with a betta. The super colorful fun ones are saltwater, and that's much more difficult. So we are going to do freshwater. So probably a betta or maybe some tetras, maybe a gourami. I don't know. It could really go many different directions. I will be the one taking care of it. I might have.
I can't tell you how much I enjoyed hearing about you freaking out because someone was holding a snake and there was a cricket on the floor. That's exactly how I am. If there's any kind of wildlife, I'm like, what are we in a jungle? What happened here? What happened in my world? Did
I buy tickets to a zoo?
Yeah,
where someone has escaped? I don't like it.
Well, like people are always like, they want to go camping and stuff. And my argument is always, have you ever been camping and they did deliver Chinese food to your campsite? That's never happened. So I'm not certain what the point of camping is.
Haven't we evolved beyond it, is how I feel.
Hello. There's chipmunks and they're lethal. They attack. They smell human blood. They worship human death. And almost all animals do, except fish, which can be contained behind glass.
Exactly.
Can they see you is the question. Or do they just sense that there's some sort of outer universe where you're in control?
Yeah, I was thinking about this lately. Recently and lately. I was thinking, and no one is stoned, and yet I'm going. Do animals have consciousness? What are we defining consciousness as? Or maybe the question is more: do they have sentience? Like, does a bug have consciousness?
That's a good question. Consciousness is a pretty rare concept. I mean, certainly mammals and almost anything that swims and flies probably has consciousness. Bugs' consciousness, I would proffer, is rather limited in so much as their brain isn't capable of firing enormous synapses. And I mean, killer whales wear salmon on their head as a joke. And they do it to make each other laugh. So if you want any more evidence that animals have consciousness, I think that one really is a cake taker. And that we've learned that the killer whales who keep sinking the boats learned it from a matriarch whale, that killer whale pods are a matriarchy. Mm-hmm. And so, and certainly they can communicate with each other, even though their whale songs are impenetrable to us. Imagine what we sound like to them, just whatever.
Right.
So I think they do, yes. And I think they have a soul. Whether or not we're reincarnated as animals, I think is up for only Gail from Oprah's friend can answer that.
Oh my God. Does she have like a straight line? What if that cricket was like my grandfather? The one jumping around. Yeah. Oh, another thing from the store. There was a sign that said rat emergency. No live rats till 1-2.
Oh, because they're feeding the snakes.
I didn't, I guess that is what, When I read that, I was like, are these pet rats or are these feeder rats? But if it was just pet rats, it wouldn't be a rat emergency. It'd be like a rat notice.
Yeah,
A
no,
rat
I think
announcement. You're right.
right. It'd be a rat contingency and not, rat emergencies are so important to observe. Feeding reptiles, live mammals, is were kind of where I drew the line as a pet owner. I didn't really feel I didn't feel the need to take part in nature's terrible
Cruelty.
at all
Yeah,
times.
I know. Wait, what did you have a pet where you could have fed it something live?
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, cats will eat. If
Oh
you've ever
yeah.
had a cat, they'll bring in something and torture it in front of you for hours, and then look at
Hmm.
you with those beautiful eyes and go, "What? What? Isn't this funny and cute? How I tortured this bird until it died in terrible, painful death?" And you're like, "Well, I guess your ancestors really taught you quite well about." Someone gave me this years ago, and I wanted to show you because it's a beta fish, I think,
Oh yeah, it is. Is that like a little
and
coin?
they asked me, it's a magnet of all things. They asked me to name it, and I named it Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Oh, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
It just so happens you mentioned beta fish, and I had it sitting right here on my desk,
Right there.
which will give you a kind of idea of the atmosphere that I live in here.
Yeah, speaking of, I'm trying to remember what month it was when I last had you on. This information is available at my fingertip. It's available at Tony's fingertips, but it was certainly before Election Day.
Yeah.
It was a different time. We were feeling hopeful. How are you feeling now?
Well, I think I feel like everyone else, exhausted, and also taking a huge break until things happen a little more. I haven't given up, and I'm not one of those doom and gloom people who goes, "Oh my God, the Democratic Party's falling apart" or whatever. I really feel like white people, and particularly white bro dudes, as soon as a black woman doesn't do everything for them, including make them lunch and tuck them in, they have a complete heart attack and somehow they've been failed by the system. And I don't feel that way. I feel like Biden's accomplished so much. And he gave us a black woman vice president from San Francisco, which was my dream come true. And he's put 1 million people of color on the courts around the country. And he put a black woman on the Supreme Court. And I'd like to think about all the great things that have happened in the last 4 years. And I'm really, really proud that I supported Biden and that I went to the wall supporting Kamala Harris because I think she's going to run again. And I think she's going to win in the next time. Getting to the present, he's a disaster and there's just no way around it. I mean, it's like having a mafia don. We've already gone through this. So we know that he has less morals than like the stupidest member of the Gotti family. But I have hope, and here's why. He's really old and he's really unsound, and there's very little chance I think he makes it through the next 4 years. As far as a living entity is what I'm getting at, which leaves us with J.D. Vance, who literally no one voted for. If I could find one Orange 45 Mango Mussolini voter that went, "Man, I loved that Vance. That's why I voted for them," I will fillet the entire San Francisco Niners secondary. So
You heard it here first. Wait, I don't do sports. What's the secondary? Who are you filleting?
that's the guys who play behind
The line.
they're not in the first dairy. There's two dairies in every football team, and one dairy brings the milk to the yard. And I'm not really sure. I gave up on football a while ago because all the owners are white supremacists.
But are you filleting more or fewer people if you're doing the secondary?
Tony, how many are in the secondary? 4. There's
Yeah,
two
usually
cornerbacks,
4.
two cornerbacks,
Two
and
safeties.
2 safeties. Yeah.
Okay.
There's the free side safety, and there's the. See, when I was a little kid and I watched the NFL, we would put our electric football game in front of the television. And electric football was this weird game that was on a metal thing. And all these plastic players had these little tendrils. And you'd turn it on, I swear to you, and it would vibrate. And there was a screw that adjusted the severity or the intensity of the vibration. And the more you turned it, they would vibrate harder and they would kind of run willy-nilly.
Wow.
And that was how we, and believe me, if you're my age, you remember it.
This
and
is
then
like pre-video game?
Oh, wait, this is like steam powered. When I was little, we would reenact the hunt and, all the things that kids don't do anymore.
Right.
We wear shamanistic heads and, But yeah, they had a thing called the bump and run in those days, where the secondary, as we were discussing, could beat the receivers up all the way down the line. They literally could punch them and hit them. And they also wore what they called in those days stickum, which means they could slather their bodies in this weird adhesive.
Oh, I've heard of
And
that,
so
yeah.
when the ball got near them, they could just stick their hand up and kind of stick to their. I'm not kidding. This was the 60s and 70s. And there was a player on the Oakland Raiders named Fred Biletnikoff who chain smoked and had a droopy Fu Manchu mustache. And he was my favorite. He was a white guy. He was really slow, but he never dropped the ball because he wore so much stickum all over him that the ball would hit him and he'd go like that and just sort of cling to it.
It's amazing.
Yeah. The old day sports were great. In those days, players drank after the games and they didn't get on a bike and work out. You know what I mean? They took amphetamines, you know.
So they would just coat their body and stick them?
Yeah, their arms, mostly their arms and their head, their helmet, so that if the ball hit your helmet, you could just grab it and it would stick.
What a different
no one
thing
tells
that
you these
must have
things.
been. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they would have those, the films where the guy would go on a cold, clear morning in Cincinnati.
Tony, did you know about stickum?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
This is like when I found out about blading in wrestling, which still turns my stomach.
Oh, right. Where they hide the blade and cut them. Isn't that terrible?
Yeah. I find it to be pretty gross. Yeah.
I believe the phrase is red turns to green, meaning you make more money if you cut yourself.
Yes. Gross.
Yeah, it is gross.
And there's one, what is it? Abdul the Butcher, who has like a totally misshapen head from all of the blading
unbelievable
that he
amount of
has done.
scars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
I went through a period of time where I was having wrestlers on the show. Hopefully in 2025, we'll get back to more wrestlers. But
I love that.
Oh no, I lost what I was going to say about it. Tony, what was
I love that movie with Mickey Rourke. Did we see that? The Wrestler.
I haven't even seen The Wrestler, if you can believe it. Even
It's
though I
actually
have it,
quite good.
Yeah.
I'll
very
see
good.
it.
Todd
I wouldn't
Berry's
say
in
that.
it too.
Really?
Todd Berry's in it. Yeah, he plays an asshole grocery store manager. He's very funny. It's like watching Todd's act, except he's really livelier in the movie than he is on stage.
Does he do the bit about Toms of Maine deodorant? I need to see it. I know what I was going to say. One of the wrestlers, I think it was RJ, was talking about like I don't know that he's ever done it, but like you blade and then afterwards you go to the doctor and have them stitch you up. And something about the fact that it involves a trip to the doctor afterwards in order to heal the most properly. That is so atrocious to me. I don't know why. I just assumed it was sort of like little paper cuts, but no, these are like, I mean, it's superficial, but you still need some stitches. Ew. We're not talking about that. We're talking about Stickum. And also, we're talking about Purple Shasta Raccoon. Tell us about the album, Greg.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it quite a bit.
Oh, that's really nice of you. You listened to it.
I did. And I will say, without giving away the joke, but in reference to the title, I too remember a time that pot seeds exploded.
It's okay if you give it away. I'm not that precious about the joke.
Okay.
The purple. When we were teenagers in the olden days, in the 70s, when I was a teenager, we would roll marijuana and it had chunks that came in the bag. Like it was a baggie, but there'd be like a cricket, as you say, or some sort of weird arthropod or any sort of vertebrate, dragonflies, whatnot. You never knew what you were getting, really.
Right.
But there was always seeds, and you couldn't quite get all of the seeds out of when you'd clean it. And then while you were smoking it, you'd be like, man, dude, I can't believe it. I can't go to see the Ted Nugent concert because my dad's being a douche. And then bang, the thing would blow up in your face.
Like
and it would be like one of those cartoon clown things where the joint would actually explode into a big wad and your face would be covered with ashes and everyone would laugh. Oh my God, no, we'd laugh. And then someone would brilliantly always say, man, seeds will give you a headache. When it was like, no, seeds will blow your lips off and hurt you. That's the thing. Marijuana is so controlled now and so corporate and grown in gigantic, Nazi warehouses or whatever. And, naked women have to trim it and with scissors and whatever. And the process is so different than when I was a teenager. It was, the good old gangsters of Mexico, just basically tilling fields and pulling up all the rocks and stuff. The album I recorded last New Year's, and I made up the whole thing. Normally I have like little ideas, like the year after the plague, I made a record, but I'd done a bunch of Zoom shows, which I think you'll agree. Nothing screams comedy more than watching it on a 3-inch screen.
Yeah.
And I had all these notes, like on that album, I talked about when the guy from ZZ Top passed away and how they're just Z Top now because the other one's gone. And then white people get really sad. And I'm like, well, of course you're sad because someone who was in a band that made terrible music that objectified women is dead. And that's all that matters to white people is objectifying women and making terrible music. So this album, I went in, normally I have notes. And I hadn't any notes at all. And I kind of scared myself and I surprised myself. I just started talking and I got a whole album out of it. I left out a bunch of stuff because it was a little too, some of it was too, I don't know. Like, for instance, the Secretary of Energy, our current Secretary of Energy, is named Jennifer Granholm. And she's a very wonderful lady and a very good Secretary of Energy. I went to high school with her and I went to college with her too. And there was an epic Jennifer Granholm routine on the album. And I thought, I don't want to do that to her. I want her to still speak to me. And even though I didn't make fun of her, of course, because she's really very intelligent, more intelligent than, say, us, in so much as she's capable of being the Secretary of Energy.
Right.
Which to me, I would walk into the room and be like, wow, there's a cricket on the floor. What do we do? So I think that what did David Bowie say? Aside from fame, makes you loose and hard to swallow. David Bowie said, when you feel like your feet aren't quite touching the ground, that's where you need to be creatively. So when you're doing something artistically, and I use the word artistic loosely in a stand-up sense because there are stand-ups who are working that have less art than any human that ever lived. I really felt the need to like kind of float a little in the air and be scared on stage. And
go ahead.
Well, that's how I did it. And I'm in San Francisco. I'm at the Punchline. It's a cozy little room. There's maybe 100 and whatever. When I play 20 people. And it's a really dinky room. You can see the back wall from the stage. It's not a cavern. And so I can do close-up magic, as they say. I can make the quarter cry and, put the cigarette through the coin and all that. And so, in other words, when you're in a big room, like when I'm in with the Who's Line group, we're in like 1,200 seat, 1,500 seat. So, but when you're on stage at the Punchline, you can go, you can actually do a take that the audience will all see.
Right.
And you can do physical comedy that's smaller. When I'm with the boys, I do a lot of really broad, we do vaudeville. We lay on the ground, we lay on top of each other. Sometimes I'll have, Jeff Davis's man sack in my face. And I will say to him while this is happening, this is the life we've chosen. So I like the feeling of adventure that recording a stand-up album without any written material gives me. I know other people will be like, oh, you can't do it. How do you do it? You can do it. You can do it.
When you do shows, do you do that often? Do you just go up and sort of see what happens?
Well, I do improv almost every day. So yes, with that I do. With stand-up, I often have an act. And I have, 125 years of material to draw on if I can remember it. And so like I'm in Flap. I think I'm at Flappers in Burbank in February. And I will do, jokes that I have prepared and some that I remember. And now the way I remember them is listening to the album over and over until I remember the things I said. Because I haven't the older albums, I had written material and I did it 1,000 times. The newer albums, I've only done once or twice. And so I don't actually remember everything I say. So I have to kind of go back and listen to my own album to remember the jokes.
I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed that whole... Now, was that whole album extemporaneous? Like you found the joke? Like these were just... None of those jokes you had told before?
Well, like there's ideas, I think I talk about going to the Alamo or whatever. And,
oh my God. That was a, can we say what it was when you say
yes, please.
It's unforgettable?
Yeah, that was my favorite joke I ever
yeah,
wrote on the top of my. I go into the Alamo, unforgettable, and across the crowd, huh? And then I'm like, you guys remember the Alamo? I don't want to have to explain it. Will Durst, who's a friend of mine, a comedian from San Francisco, said something very kind about me once, and he said, you know how people say you can tell a story and tell it funny? Well, you're that person. So like the Alamo, I went and I really did. I'll do all those things, but it's the way you tell it, right? So my recollection of how I tell it is sort of how and of course you know my style enough. I'm Baroque and I use lots of descriptive phrases and words, and it's kind of surreal and hyperreal or whatever the word is. And so that's how I like to play. I'm going to tell a story that really happened, but of course I'm going to extrapolate from it. And what really drives me crazy is when I see comics and they're still on the women are bitches or my girlfriend's so fat or Chinese people can't drive. And it's this year, because when I started back in the 40s, right after World War II, there were loads of comics who did all that. I mean, this is, there were lots less women and lots less people who weren't white guys when I started doing comedy back in the early 80s. And there was a lot of unfunny dudes. And that went on and on and on forever. And then I watched it all turn into this kind of marvelous thing in the 90s and 2000s where it really opened up. And now the audiences got hipper and the comics got hipper. And then in the last few years, we've seen, and I don't blame the audiences at all. I think there's just as many great comedians now as there ever were. And I think there's more great women and more great non-white guy comedians. But the Rogans and the Matt Rifes and all that shit tend to dominate because the media, like they do for Orange 45, they have a big boner for them. And so they really want to amplify them all the time, even though I don't think that's what most people like as comedy. I think it's limiting. So, part of my agenda is I quit making fun of women a long time ago. I have whole albums where I'd spend 20 minutes on, what a slag Britney was or whatever. And it's very funny. I grant you.
How generous.
Yeah. I just decided at one point, because we all try to evolve as comics, that I wasn't going to do it anymore, that I was only going to aim at people who can take it. And I don't really feel the need to make fun of women or trans people or anything like that, because I think it's not funny. And also, as far as that goes, where people go, oh my God, I'm being trammeled by the woke mob or whatever, that's just a matter of taste and style. If you really can't find it inside yourself not to make fun of people who are homosexual, then maybe you need to deal with a lot of sort of core issues and stop complaining that the world is holding you back, because I think you'll find the world's full of homophobes.
So you said the Secretary of Energy Department.
Yes, that's right.
Secretary of Energy. But you said that you didn't make fun of her, but you still left it out of the album because you want her to still talk to you. What is your concern if she were to have heard it?
Oh, I don't know. I just felt like it was a kind of an intrusion on our relationship that I would, because it's a whole bit about meeting her for the first time after years and years of not seeing her. And at that point, she was governor. I'm not kidding. She was governor of Michigan, like Gretchen Whitmer. She preceded Gretchen Whitmer as governor of Michigan. She was governor for 8 years, and she was attorney general of Michigan for 8 years before that. And when we met up at Dr. Grin's in Grand Rapids, she said to me, gosh, Greg, you've done really well. And I went, Jennifer, I'm telling jokes to drunks in bars, and you're the chief executive of a state with 10 million people. And then I said to her at that point, this was 2008, I think, I had been reading about her in the Michigan papers, the Detroit Press and whatnot. And I said, I understand that the Speaker of the House is trying to force an anti-abortion bill down you. And she said, and this is what I love about Jennifer Grunholm, he's such a butthead. I'm going to do that.
I love that.
Yeah,
it's hard to find that line of, I mean, she is a public figure, so I do feel like it'd be fine to talk about her. I don't know. I have it completely not the same, but I have a Substack, Tony.
Oh, didn't know that was coming so
I have a
early into the sh-
Substack.
Substack.
That's right, AllisonRosen.substack.com. And I talk about I'm sort of retelling the story, or actually for the first time telling the story of how I got on the Adam Carolla show and some of my early experiences there, kind of going through chronologically. That I feel fine speaking openly about. I feel like my part of it is my story to tell. But then I also talk about other stuff. And there's a couple stories from my past that I want to tell. One is about the girl who threatened to rearrange my face. And then that is real. And then another one, how do I tease the other one? The other one is about a guy who called me a stalker. Whether I was or not it remains to be seen. But anyway, I'm going to say I was harmless, because I was harmless. But anyway, actually, I'm going to no, I'm not. I'm going to save that. But here's what I was going to say about all of that. I don't know whether to use people's real names or not in these stories. And I think maybe I shouldn't. I don't exactly even know why. Well, the rearrange the face one, I don't think she would do anything, but I could imagine her feeling like that one is more clear cut, that like I should probably change her name. But the other one, I don't know. I guess in general, it's just always better to err on the side of maintaining people's privacy.
Well, there's a matter of discretion. Like you say, with Jennifer Granholm, she's absolutely a public figure. She's, as I say, been a chief executive of a state and attorney general and a secretary of energy. And she was on current TV, and CNN. She isn't exactly hiding. But what I didn't want to do was get too weird. Now, I used to do a routine about working in Burlingame for a pizza guy who made pizza, and he also dealt speed. And I changed his name when I did that routine, just against the advent of anyone on earth ever potentially knowing or him hearing. Not that, of course, he wouldn't be able to put two and two together.
Right.
Although, having been an inmate and a speed dealer, I don't know that two and two was probably his favorite calculation or even anything that he. So if I were you, with the personal stories about the girl who rearranged her face, or threatened rather, you might think about changing the name. And, then it gives you the leeway to give her an amazing name. You could call her Abigail, or, Lucinda, or Melora, or something. Yeah, you don't.
Right.
You can get
Those are
crazy
all
with
good
it.
names. Those are like 30-something names.
Right.
The show. Yes. I get, but I think the defense against it is, well, but it's all true. Like, as long as something's true, that is it. But also, what do I gain from using her real name? The only people who are going to know are people who actually know her. And what a fucking bitch she is. Okay. Okay. All right. So Purple Shasta Raccoon, everyone go listen to that now. It is very funny, and I'm still amazed that it's all that I mean, because most people who record albums, like, they do a bunch of shows ahead of time to get it really tight and perfect, and then the album recording is a big thing. And I love how off the cuff it was. That's very impressive to me.
Well, that's very kind of you. I mean, I had 6 shows last time. This time I'll have 4. I'll be recording again this New Year's. So the first show, I kind of try to get it out and think about it. The second show, I'll add a few new things. By the third and fourth shows, I've sort of solidified the flow of it, and I'm still, of course, adding and subtracting things all the time. But yeah, I find that that's worked for me better the last 3 albums than I like doing it the other way too, where you really go out and you work on it a lot. You write, because the meticulousness of it is like my idol, George Carlin. I saw George Carlin years ago at the Comedy Store, and my wife and I. And when he came out, standing ovation, and it was the little room too. It wasn't the big room. It was the upstairs one. He was working on a new HBO special, and he opened with "Fuck You," which was just magnificent. He came out, the place was standing and cheering, and he went, "Fuck you." And then, because it's Carlin, I only wanted you to feel at home. Then he did all these routines, and the first 10 minutes was dire. It was all like bodily function, observational junk, just terrible. And we're all like, what? And then he went, this is the getting to know you, making you feel comfortable part. Then he went into what he'd written, and it was extraordinary. And then in this, I'll make the story as short as humanly possible. He said, if you don't mind, I haven't memorized this part. I'm going to read it to you. And then he said something that I've never forgotten on stage. I do not improvise, I memorize. And he took from his coat a piece of paper and he unfolded it and he read the routine. And because he was so good of a writer, and more importantly than writing, as anyone will tell you, as a stand-up comedian, editing. Like as an author, you know, you've written enough. It's not the writing. The writing happens. It's going back over it and making the writing into something, giving it shape, giving it form, giving it content, giving the words and sentences meaning and emphasis. And so when he started to read it, and I turned to my wife, Jennifer, and my girlfriend and my boyfriend, and I said, this is extraordinary. Yeah, they were all there because I like to party. I said, his voice written is as funny as his voice memorized. In other words, by the time it's down on paper, it's where he wanted it. So all that remained for him was to learn it and then say it. And so then of course, give it the jazz, you know, the performance. But I was blown out of the water that he said, I don't improvise, because clearly he's able to, you know, all comics can up to a certain point. And then I've done it that way. I have many albums and, you know, that I've worked on, and word perfect. And it's the order of the words and the choice of the words. Someone else wouldn't say, and also I steal so much from books and literature. I don't steal from other stand-up comedians because you'd never want to steal someone's joke. You can steal the idea. Definitely. And then make the idea your idea and no one will know. And I think that's a classic way of doing work. Anyone will tell you that they do that. Bob Dylan or whoever. I was just reading another thing the other day that someone was saying, the reason I'm so good is I steal, but then of course you make it your own.
So when you say you steal from books, do you mean wording or ideas?
Both. I stole from Cormac McCarthy is a sort of indefensible right-wing author. His way with language is extraordinary. And I stole the line, what was it? The steam sings out of her ears. Because it's such you know, but I mean, I would say, you know, what was it? It was an old Jessica Simpson routine. I said, then Jessica Simpson had a thought, and the world shifted slightly on its axis. See, now you guys get it. But that's like, no one would sit down and write that joke. I had to go over it and over it and over it and over it. And there was another line about, what was it? She said, can I have some buffalo wings? I didn't know buffalo could fly. And I said, what would give you the impression that buffalo enjoy the gift of flight? So that has to be worded that exact way for it to fly.
Right.
Whereas if I'm improvising it, by the fourth time around, I might get to like the Alamo joke. I did like 18 different ways. Years ago, I was in Canada and we were shooting at a school, which of course has a much different meaning in Canada. And it was in Halifax, and I got this joke wrong. And I can't remember what the joke was. Something like, in America, a refugee child is dangerous, but an unborn embryo is, I can't remember what the joke was. Anyway, I got the wording wrong. And I said to the crowd, I messed this joke up. I'm doing it again. And I messed it up again. And then I said to the crowd, I'm doing it again. And I got it right. And of course, they started screaming. They're on your side. They want you to. But I thought, I've learned, and I'm so old, you don't have to let it be dead, and you don't have to do it the wrong way. You can stop, because we're on television, and God damn it, say it exactly the way I wanted it written. And then it actually worked. So there's a lot of different ways to work. But I prefer now the flying backwards kind of. Keith Johnstone, the improv guru who passed away, said improv is floating down a river backwards. because you know where you've been and you haven't any notion of where you're going. And then I always think of Leonard Cohen. What did he say? Forget your perfect universe. Cracks are where the light shines through. So mistakes are like if you make a mistake, the mistake is an opportunity. It's not, and I just explained to you how I wouldn't acknowledge that I made a mistake and did something 4 times. But by the same token, if you're riffing and you make a mistake, you can incorporate the mistake. Like I think I might have called it the Alamo by accident and then realized how goddamn funny calling the Alamo the Alamo is. And then went, wait a minute. There's a story on one of an earlier album where my wife took me for chicken in Hawaii, and I mean to this food stand, and there's chickens everywhere. If you've been to Hawaii, you know there's always chickens. And I said to the guy, "What's on the menu here?" "Pork heaven." And he goes, "Oh, the pork. It's it's cooked for 6 hours, and we do it's falling off the bone, brah." And then I turned to my wife, and she goes, "I'll have the chicken." And there's a huge laugh, and I never knew that was the funny part. So it was news to me when I said the line, and it gets one of the bigger laughs on the album. And it's literally what she said at the time. She went, after listening to this fucking 10-minute description of the pork dish, she went, "I'll have the chicken." And it was funnier than anything I could have thought of. And it was funnier than anything. And the audience leapt all over it. And I'm like, wait, that's the funny part. So I was discovering it with everyone else. And then, of course, the joke was there's chickens everywhere. And I'm like, wait a minute, there is chicken. Because the guy goes, she says, "I'll have the chicken." And he goes, "There's no chicken on the menu today." And I'm like, what about this one here? And this one over here? And why don't you knock one of these in the head, put some Thai stuff in it, and we'll eat it right now, So, though, I think I've been very long and tedious about my explanation. There's nothing really more exciting than hearing about process, is there?
I like to learn about what goes into the craft. Wait, I have a question though.
Yes.
What was that David Bowie quote you said earlier about feet?
It was something I saw on a video of him, and he said, creatively, you want your feet to be a little bit off the ground. You want to be a little bit. I don't know what I'm going to do right next, and I always felt that was a really great place to be, performing wise, because you have to have the confidence in yourself to be able to know that you're going to pull it out of the bag. And 2, sometimes when you're not sure what you're going to say next, you might, like I said, come up with something or find something funny that you didn't know was there.
Right.
But in improv, when I'm with the boys, they're all really funny. And of course, they'll say things. They'll even be in character, which I can rarely do because I'm not that good. But they'll say something and I'll think, oh, I have a great joke here. And then the moment goes by. And then you think one more time, can I wedge this joke in?
That's podcasting.
Anyway, yep. And then it's gone. It's ephemeral. And, years ago, Tom Petty, before he passed away, did this epic tour and they made a documentary of it. Bogdanovich made a documentary of it. And he said something that I thought was really fatuous and I never understood it. I guess he was just bitter and burned out at that point. He said, "So you've done all these great shows, and at the end of the day, what have you got? You've just got all these great shows you did." And I thought, well, but yes, that's
the point.
Yes, being a troubadour means you go to a different town every night and you sing your songs. And you try to do them as good as you can. And then maybe you don't. Maybe you're high one night. Maybe you're angry. Maybe the crowd's angry, whatever. But that's what it is. And a comic is a troubadour of sorts. And certainly you're up there, as Arthur Miller said, with, what is it, a shoe shine and a smile. So I kind of feel like I like the elusiveness and I like the ephemeral quality of podcasting, of improv, of stand-up. Everything doesn't have to be notarized and put in a book. It's okay for it to drift around the universe. Not that I don't mind. I mean, obviously, I like books as much as anyone else. I mean, I've got one under my table now because it's wonky.
Which one is it?
It keeps the Cher.
I know. Before we started officially, you were telling us that you're reading Cher's book, Part 1.
I am an intellectual, and it is called Part 1. And all I could think of was Part 1. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I love Cher as much as the next heterosexual male. And but I thought you couldn't wrap it up in one book. She must have had a great deal with her publisher, because
Right.
you've made book deals before, and they're not great. They'll say to you, like, how many Facebook followers do you have? And you're like, what? I thought we were writing a book. So she must have I read Barbara Streisand's earlier last year.
I
think we talked about it the last time we were on.
That's like 900 pages, right? Or
Yeah.
700?
No, it's extraordinary. It's like Thomas Pynchon. It's crazy how big it is. And I really loved it because I love celebrity biographies because they're always crazy and they don't.
I know.
They don't
I need to
really
read
get
more.
where they're, like you see them one way, but it's clear that they don't have any perspective and that
Right.
their editor didn't care. The editor just wants this long book. And I also read Pacino's book this year too,
Wow.
which was amazingly weird. And he's a very interesting figure. All of his friends died of heroin overdoses. He's from dire poverty. And that's the other thing I like about Cher's book and his book and Barbara's book. None of them are from rich families or even middle-class families. They're not even from middle-class families. They're from broken up, crappy, like me. And it made me happy. It was like, I'm sure Eddie Redmayne and all the rich actors have wonderful stories to tell about their fabulous rich childhood.
Is Eddie Redmayne rich? Is he posh?
Yeah. I
didn't know
Will
that.
Arnett, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. They're all very talented and they're all really
Julia
good.
Louis-Dreyfus, I knew, was
But
wealthy.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus is from an enormously wealthy, I believe the word is scion of an enormously wealthy family. And no, it doesn't make you worse of a person or anything. It's just I really enjoy reading about people who were moved from town to town and had no, childhood, and then all of a sudden decided they were Barbara Bloody Streisand.
Right.
Also, Barbara Streisand claims she never had any voice lessons, and that she went to one, and that she didn't
Wow.
like the voice teacher. And I just I want to believe that so
Yeah.
much.
Me too. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say someone is like, should I start with Barbara Streisand's book, Cher's book, or Al Pacino's book? Which one are you recommending?
Cher. It's really shallow. It's great. I told you the line that before we went on the air, I said, a lot of people don't know about me, how sensitive and nervous I am. And for someone who's 80 years old and is a rich person to tell you that the problem with the world is that not everyone knows how sensitive they are. To me, I just I read it like this with my fists in the air. I love the shallowness of it. Also, she's interesting. She's an interesting figure. Her career goes from the 60s to now. I mean, my God, she's still around. We're showing Moonstruck at the film club on the 27th. And Moonstruck is a movie that everybody really loves. And as soon as I posted we were showing Moonstruck, people were like, oh my God, I love that movie. And it's a really cute movie. And Cher's really proved more than almost any other rock star or whatever you want to call her, pop star, that she's a good actor. Most of them are terrible. Mick Jagger's a terrible actor. There's a lot of people who tried acting, but Cher actually was good at acting. She's really funny, like Bette Midler or whatever,
Right.
or Dolly Parton, really entertaining.
Not a rock star, but how do we feel about Cameron Diaz as an actor? Someone I have not given a lot of thought to, but I recently was watching The Holiday. Have you seen this Nancy Meyers Christmas film? I'd never seen it.
Is that the one with Jack Black and
Yes.
Yeah.
And Kate Winslet.
Kate Winslet? And
Jude
she's
Law,
in the
right.
bed and he's playing the music, and there's another guy in it too. Is it Jude Law or somebody?
Jude Law, yes.
Oh wow, I did remember it.
Yeah.
I watched it on a plane years ago.
Okay, so I am like in the middle of it right now, and I'm just taken aback by how much Cameron Diaz is taking me out of the movie. I never have given her much thought either way. What do you think of her?
I wouldn't say that I would ever watch her for acting. I find her wildly amusing on screen, and I think she has an awesome presence. Like in the Charlie's Angels movies, which are nobody's idea of great cinema. She's absolutely tremendous in those because she's really light and funny, and playing a kind of a bimbo-y, airheady, whatever her character's supposed to be, the glib,
Right.
it is a really difficult thing to do. And not everybody does it that well. And I think she was like Goldie Hawn was good at it.
Yes.
And I think Cameron Diaz has that
Anna
gift.
Faris. Can
Anna Faris, right? Anna Faris, when she plays someone completely empty, is hysterically funny. And
Yeah.
those are great roles. And I'm always impressed when actresses can pull that off because, well, you know as well as I do, the men who run the show really only want actresses to exhibit one quality. And when actresses are really funny, and they're allowed to be, it's a total gift for everyone, I think, because men always like, well, I don't think women are, and I of course disagree with that. Not that I find every. So yeah, I think Cameron Diaz is charming, and I think she's a nice enough person. I don't get that she's consumed with show business like some people that I. We used to make jokes when I was in a comedy group in San Francisco, and we would say people were doing performances where throughout the entire performance their subtext was "Give me an Oscar," and
I know what
you know, you're watching them and they're trying so hard and they're doing this and they're doing that. And it's clear that they want to be rewarded. And I don't ever get that from Cameron Diaz.
Right.
I don't get that it's not the Daniel Day-Lewis, Kate Winslet school of, I'm really gonna. Okay, so years ago, I went to see Kenneth Branagh in Hamlet. And I was acquainted with him and Emma Thompson. So much so that I was invited to the show and we went backstage after. And it was the year that Anthony Hopkins won the Oscar for Silence of the Lambs. And then the next year, Emma Thompson won. So we're backstage. And I swear to you, we walk in and I'd met Kenneth and had lunch with him. So I knew him well enough to talk to him. And he said to me, "Hi, Greg, you know Tony." Which, of course, no, I don't know Tony. Right. You mean Sir Anthony Hopkins? No, I do not know him. And Anthony Hopkins went, "I hope that Emma wins the Oscar because I will be the one to hand it to her." And he spoke like a pirate. And it was a really awful long version of Hamlet, which he made a movie of. And it's in Edwardian costume, which is dire beyond measure. Even Mel Gibson's Hamlet, and Mel Gibson is completely unsupportable as a performer, as a human, but a very sexy screen presence. His Hamlet had that, you know, I'm wearing a fur head and, you know, kind of like Danish cave talk or whatever. It was kind of sexy. And Branagh would, you know, there's silk hats and everyone's in a cravat and, you know, like, oh God, I'm going to die.
It's black and white, right? Is it that the one?
Well, but it should be. And then when we saw the play, it was on like a gray backdrop and whatever. And of course, if you've ever seen Hamlet, it's not really, it's an existential dilemma. And it's 3 hours of Hamlet going, should I or shouldn't I, to be or not to be? Yeah. It really is, because the guy's killed his father. And so he takes 3 hours to decide whether to take revenge. And in the meantime, his girlfriend goes bananas. And Branagh said backstage, my favorite show of the week is the Sunday show, the matinee before we do the nighttime show, because they put on a roast in between. And then he said, and by the way, the show was 3 hours with 2 intermissions.
Wow.
5 acts. Wow. And now every time you'll see Hamlet, it's redacted, as they say, so that it's about 2 hours long, you know.
Right.
But he did the full Monty, right? Every goddamn line. So he had to learn, I think, 800, 900 lines. You know, it's a big, like Lear, it's a giant. Yeah. And he fantastically said to us, you know, after the first hour, you've really done all your tricks. He goes, you've cried, you've been angry, you've shook your fist at the heavens, you've had an existential dilemma, and now you have nothing, and there's 2 more fucking hours. And that made me love him. That, you know, it's true, you know.
The awareness, yeah.
Yeah, where do I go from here? I've already cried, but now I've got to get to Act 5, you know, and cry in Act 5. And
that's hilarious. I think it might be time to do a new segment that I'm in love with, even though I'm really selling it by saying I don't know why. This one, it's gotten under my skin, and it's called This or That.
Do you like this or that? Do you like this or that? Do you like this or that?
That is the voice contestant, Adam Bohannon, singing an extemporaneous jingle. Okay, this is very easy, Greg. I just say two things, and you say which one you like better. There's truly no twist. Soup or salad?
Salad.
Okay. What kind of dressing?
I'm Thousand Island on the side guy.
Ooh, good. Ketchup or mustard?
Ooh, mustard.
What kind of mustard?
French.
Reading on a Kindle or reading a book?
Book. But I read my
Audio-
phone all the time, so
Yeah. Audiobook or podcast?
I don't really listen to either. Podcast.
That's okay. You don't have to say that for my benefit. Window
No,
or aisle?
I have to say podcast. I do podcast, and I like
Yeah.
them better, so podcast.
Window or aisle?
Aisle, always.
Finally, we've had just a spate of window people who are like, I don't go to the bathroom for 15 hours. I like the window.
Thank you. That's why I'm sitting in the aisle.
Yeah, exactly. Morning or evening?
Evening.
Being dumped or having to dump someone?
Oh, kittens, that hasn't happened to me in 150 years.
But back when it did.
Being dumped was easier.
Really? Interesting.
I was stood up on New Year's 1984, I think it was. It was the last time I was single. And I remember being very angry at the woman. And I was thinking about it the other night for no reason, and I can't remember her name.
It'll come to you. I bet it will. Okay. Big crowd or isolation?
Oh, big crowd.
Beach vacation or snow vacation?
The beach.
Shower or bath?
Bath.
Really? You're a bath guy?
I mean, not
Like
every day, obviously. It takes
Yeah.
a while.
Comedy or drama?
Comedy.
Cake or pie?
Cake.
Dog or cat?
Cat.
Sweet or salty?
Sweet.
Look before you leap or jump and the net will appear?
Jump.
Okay. All right. That concludes this or that. I do feel it's new. This is pretty new. I feel like I need to throw some curveballs in there to like make it wacky, but I sort of enjoy just the straightforward getting to know someone via these questions.
Right? It's almost like a Rorschach test.
A little bit.
Because you're forced to you're forced to decide, and the deciding is the answer, you know. Like I said crowds, but I adore being alone. I really do. Or most of all with my wife, you know. But then how can I say that I don't love crowds when the gaping hole inside my soul requires that I go in front of strangers and dance like an idiot for them every night of my life in order to earn a living? So I have
Right.
to say crowds.
These are the contradictions that are revealed by this or that. Let's do.
You said jumper or the net will appear. After all I've been saying, if I didn't say that I preferred jumping.
All right, I guess so. Yeah. All right, let's do just me or everyone.
Sometimes I ponder on something I have thought or done. Is it just me or everyone?
All right, Greg Proops, do you have one?
Yeah, I have a couple. And I wanted to ask
Great.
you about one, Allison, because I'm afraid I said it last time. Did I mention people's hygiene on the last one we did together?
I don't think so.
Okay,
not ringing a bell.
I won't do that one. I'll do
Would you, if I had said yes, you did, would you have done it?
no. I mean, I
So
think
secretive.
well, I mean, you know, like the other day I was on a plane, as I am every bloody day, and a woman took her shoes off and was walking up and down in the plane.
This is now beginning to ring a bell. Tony, is it ringing a bell for you?
No, but I hear. Yeah, I don't recall this from Greg necessarily.
Well, other
Okay.
people I'm sure have taken this up.
Yeah.
Because hygiene is a big thing with me. I believe in it. And I think that people are really, really sloppy. But I mean, is it just me thing? Baseball hats on guys. I can't take it. I'm done with it. I don't want to see it anymore. I know believe me, I'm in a group with 5 guys. I travel the country with a bunch of guys, and 3 of them wear baseball hats like every day. And so this isn't aimed at them in particular, but men wear caps into nightclubs. Men wear caps into theaters. My assertion is, if you're playing baseball and you're a member of a professional baseball team, a cap looks great. Outside of that, I'm really not sure why you're wearing it, and red caps, you got to be kidding me.
Wow.
Like even the St. Louis Cardinals wear blue caps now, if you've noticed. So I don't understand why men never pick up on any microaggressions. They just do not pick up on their own microaggressions. And to me, a cap is a way of saying, I want women to do their hair and I want women to look really nice, but I don't give a shit how I look. I can be a big, fat, fucking sports-loving pig. And I'm saying this to the world every moment, that wearing a cap is really cool for me to walk around in every social situation. And if it makes me a big priss for saying it, I'm sorry. But there you are. Actually, I'm not
that's so
sorry
interesting.
at all.
Tony, do you agree? Have you had these thoughts?
I haven't necessarily had those thoughts, but I'm not a hat guy though. Like I literally don't even own a hat. So I guess maybe I do deep down have that thought. I don't know. I just don't like hats. Yeah.
Me neither. I wear them occasionally if it's cold or something.
Yeah.
So my husband will don a baseball cap sometimes, not like in the house, but I'll see him grab it before he heads out. I don't know why. And this is reminding me that when we first started dating, I saw him with a cap on and I thought, oh God, is he some like industry douche bro? And it was, and now I've become inured to it because it's just him and I love him. And I don't think he's an industry douche bro. But I had forgotten that was my initial reaction to the cap. And I will tell you, our new dog. Did I have a second dog when you came last time, Greg?
I can't remember. I remember your yard.
I can't remember either. But I think we already had Petey. Anyway, he recently destroyed one of my husband's favorite hats.
Oh no.
And I ordered another one for him, and I couldn't get the same color. But I could have seen that as a chance to get away from the caps. But instead, I enabled it. One more thing on this. Okay. I remember many years ago, I was talking to a therapist, and I don't know why I said something like, and, I hadn't done my hair was unwashed or it didn't look good or da-da-da. And she's like, you could put on a cap or you put on a hat. And I was thinking, not really. Like, for what hat could I just casually, as a woman, what hat could I casually put on to make it not noticeable that my hair looked awful? I feel like if you wear a hat, as a woman, if you wear a hat, it's very loud.
I agree. Well, you could wear like a peaked witch's hat. That would certainly stop people in their tracks. Or you could go like 80s Merchant Ivory and wear a big bonnet or something. Yes. But you were talking about industry douche bros. Mm-hmm. Not only do the men of Hollywood wear, and I think you'll agree with me on this, Allison, a Boston Red Sox cap indicates that the meeting is going to go very poorly.
Yeah.
Because guys who wear Boston Red Sox caps tend to be the biggest douche bros of all. There's something about a Boston Red Sox cap that just screams, I don't think women are funny. And but women in LA wear douche bro caps too. You may have noticed. There's that whole sort of jogger, I'm always in my active wear, even when I'm at Gelson's or whatever.
Right. Oh, especially at Gelson's.
Right.
Gelson's is where they wear it.
Yeah. They're wearing tennis shoes and their Lululemon pants. And then women in LA will adopt that, which I don't blame them for. I don't think women have to be super feminine every second of their life. But a lot of show business women will really do the ball cap workout gear thing every second. If you go to Whole Foods, man, you're going to see a lot of. But then, like you go to Montana and everybody's got tattoos all over their body, like everyone. You just don't meet anyone that isn't tattooed. And then if you go to Idaho, all the guys have that weird medieval haircut that's really short on the sides.
Oh, the undercut, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's like a lot in the back. And they always have that kind of weird steely, like when they're ordering their, I'll have the buffalo or whatever. And you're like, so being a sociopath is like a look. In some, yeah. And then, of course, all older men feel the need to wear a baseball hat or a golf hat, and they're just as comfortable as can be with it. And I just don't,
Not for you.
No, well, I have caps.
Right. I had a hat memory as we were talking, and I was saying, what hat could a woman casually don?
Yeah.
Do you guys remember there was a period of time where an oversized newsboy cap was popular? Like very oversized though. Almost like imagine a hat that's the size of a large bread basket on your head.
Yeah.
When was that the in my mind it's the 90s. I feel like I'm seeing Paula Abdul wearing one maybe. When were we wearing those? 2000?
Well, certainly in the 70s they were really popular.
Oh yes.
And I had one then, and it said Big Apple inside, like you were a newsboy, like you were in Newsies. Just a great big. The Jackson 5 used to wear them.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Now that you're saying it, they are seven. They go well with bell bottoms. Those are cool.
Yeah,
hats.
they look really good with bell bottoms. And then years ago, we were playing in Henderson, Nevada, and there was a girl wearing not the newsboy hat, but I know the one you're talking about that were really big. She had the one that was turned up in front. Remember those? Like it went around. It had a brim, but you turned the front up.
Yeah.
And I said to her, "Come to the Honeycomb Hideout. The Honeycomb kids are there." And because if you remember the kids at the Honeycomb Hideout, the girls wore their hats. Like Joe Pesci and Goodfellas, turned up in front, gangster style,
I also think maybe Blossom's friend Six on the show Blossom had a similar hat.
Blossom.
Yeah, a lot of hats on there.
I was going to say Blossom was a very hat-oriented show.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I like hats. I think they're great. I think they're beautiful. I'm not going to wear a ball cap if I can help. Even at baseball games, I don't really wear one. That's how big of a bummer I am, I guess.
You do you. Occasionally, I'll see clips. I haven't in a while, but I used to see clips of Mayim Bialik's podcast, and she was never wearing a hat, which makes me wonder, from whom were the hats coming from? That sentence didn't work. Whose idea were the hats? Like, was she? It must not have been her. She must have not been super into hats, or she's grown out of it. It's a lot. If I ever come across her, I've got to get to the bottom of the hats. Okay, let's do Podcast Pals product picks.
Podcast Pals product picks.
All right, what do you have for us? Last time you had a hair product.
I did. I was thinking about that. It was the Balmain hair cocaine, which I'm still using.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. This time it's sweets, chocolates, and my wife suggested that I mention this one particular kind. We were just in England a couple of days ago, and there's a particular kind of chocolate that the English really like. That's chocolate with orange in it.
Oh, that sounds yummy.
Yeah, and they do eggs or a ball, and you crack it open, I swear to you, and it's been serrated so that it has faux orange slices, you see, but it's just chocolate. So then the orange is inside. And then there's ones that are long, like a pencil or whatever, and they're called batons, right? So first of all, sweets, I'm an absolute, I just can't stop eating sweets. And during the holidays, I go extra bananas. Like I ate an enormous bag of Hershey's Kisses last night. And my wife said, "Can I have a couple Hershey's Kisses?" And I said, because these were the holiday ones, the green ones are really good.
Are they not the same?
Yes, of course they are.
Okay, so chocolate. So is there a specific kind of chocolate orange that you're recommending?
Well, if you can find the expensive chocolate orange batons, yes. But then failing that, if you go to like Bristol Farms, maybe where they have an
Okay.
English food section,
Got it. All right.
don't get the violet crumble. Violet crumble's awful.
What does it taste like? Is it like
Violet,
honeycomb?
I hate. No,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I just don't see where violet comes into my food.
No.
It's like lavender.
Yuck.
It goes in the drawer, like I don't want it. I would say a Cadbury orange egg.
That sounds
Even though I'm not a big
delicious.
Cadbury person, I think their orange eggs are really. There's also a British cookie called a Jaffa cake. I'm not kidding. Jaffa.
I've had those.
See, there you are.
Okay, I'm watching. Are either of you watching Slow Horses? Do you know this show?
Oh no, but I know which one you mean.
Yeah. Literally, Jaffa cakes were a plot point on the episode we watched last night.
There you are.
So,
See,
there you go.
They
No,
come
I
in a
think I've
little
had those too.
blue
They're
box,
delicious.
and like Oreos, there's sub. Like there's the fake, like what were the old ones, Hydrox or whatever. There's
right.
like, you have to have proper Jaffa cakes. If you bring the low budget Jaffa cakes, people bum out.
Yeah, I think that I've had them before, but I think I must have only had fake Jaffa cakes because I
They're
doubt I had
orangey.
access to the best kind.
Yeah, they're spongy and they're orangey, and they have a chocolate center.
Right. That sounds
Now my wife doesn't.
delicious.
She hates chocolate mint and she hates chocolate orange. Although she'll eat the chocolate orange.
Jennifer, come on. What does she like? Other chocolate mixes or just straight chocolate?
Janduja, hazelnut.
Oh,
Yeah,
fancy.
and I'm a big pistachio. That's my favorite flavor.
Pistachio. I like
Yeah.
pistachio flavor.
I love pistachio ice cream like more than life itself.
What's your favorite? Like, what brand is? What's the Greg Proops stamp of approval ice cream?
There's kittens. Now I'm blank. Of course, I can see it. I can feel it. It's an Italian name. I'm never going to come up with it. And then there's another one called McConnell's. And then,
Yes, I've seen that.
Strauss, which is from Marin. They do, but I don't know that they do pistachio. I can't. I'm embarrassed beyond all measure. I just told you I love pistachio ice cream, and now I can't.
It's
remember
the pressure.
I know, right?
Google pistachio ice cream Italian.
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
Now I'm going to
Is it
have to do
Torani?
that because I'm. What?
Torani? No, Torani is syrup. But there's some. Is it like a gelato?
Yeah.
There's Toroni. What is it called?
Oh, I love
In the
Torani.
grocery store. It's like a clear container, a clear pint.
Oh, right.
Is that the one you're thinking of? That's Italian, I think.
Italy has the grooviest ice cream, and Belgium is for the chocolate. Oh, there's a Ben and Jerry's pistachio. Haagen-Dazs pistachio is not bad. Talenti.
Talenti. That's what I was trying to say when I said Toroni. Yes, Talenti. I got to try
That's
that.
one. Yeah.
I like a pistachio flavor. I also like
Yeah.
an almond. I don't love almonds, but I like marzipan flavor.
Oh, I love marzipan. Do you know those little Mozarts?
No,
There's like
what are
little
those?
Mozart marzipan candies that are, yeah, Google those. You'll go crazy. I love marzipan.
Tony, I hope you're making,
I'm like-
or I hope you will make note of all these products.
What was
notes.
what was the one with Amadeus? His rival Salieri.
Oh, Salieri, yeah.
Yeah, ever see that movie? And all he does
Many
is
years
eat
ago.
sweets. Yeah. And all he does is eat marzipan all day and sweets. And
My husband was just saying we should rewatch that. So,
none of it's true, which is fantastic.
Wait, really?
Yeah, Peter Schaffer and his brother Anthony Schaffer were, I'm not kidding, both playwrights and both had gigantic hit plays. Peter Schaffer wrote Equus and Royal Hunt of the Sun, and Anthony Schaffer wrote Sleuth. They wrote all these famous, all of them got made into movies, and Amadeus, whatnot. And Salieri was very kind to Mozart and really tried to help him at court. Mozart was an errant young man. He was kind of uncontrollable and wild, as well as being an extraordinary musical genius who literally from the age of 4 was performing for the crowned heads of Europe. But he was not his arch rival. He absolutely stole the plot, made Salieri into the bad guy so that there'd be conflict.
Yeah. I had no idea. I always thought Salieri was a bad guy.
Oh, no. He was a mediocre composer, but that's not a
Right.
crime.
He didn't make Amadeus compose to death.
No, remember that scene where he's writing all night and oh my God, I
Yeah.
feel sick. I'm composing too much. I feel ill. No, he
like all
didn't
I
do any of
remember.
those things. Peter Schaffer wrote the greatest stage direction in the history of drama. And The Royal Hunt of the Sun is a play about Pizarro conquering the Incas in South America. And there is a line of stage direction that says, Pizarro crosses the Andes. That's in the play. If you're a director, you will come upon the line that says, Pizarro crosses the Andes. And it's left to you to decide how dramatically you're.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Greg Proops, it was so delightful checking in with you, finding out the backstory of the album, hearing your thoughts on hats, and more. Thank you so much for coming back on the show. Tell everyone, plug anything you'd like to plug, please.
Thank you. The album Purple Shasta Raccoon is at gregproops.com. My wife and I put on the Greg Proops Film Club. Jennifer picks all the movies. We're showing, I don't know if this will be out in time, but we're showing Moonstruck, Los Feliz 3 on the 27th at the American Cinematheque. We've shown a lot of good movies this year.
This
those
will
are
not
all
be out by the 27th, but I actually don't, as we talk, I'm not sure when this will be airing.
Well, but you can always listen to all the film clubs afterward. We showed a lot of really good movies this year, including The Band's Visit and The Lives of Others and The Landlord. A lot of really good. We only have two criterion. Is it under 2 hours and is it awesome? Last Christmas, we showed Crossing Delancey. You know that one?
Oh, yeah.
A really great movie about couples and relationships and Jews. Then what else? Oh, Whose Line Goes Back on the Road in January. We're in Northern California and all over. And that's at whoslive.com. It's me, Ryan Stiles, Jeff Davis, Joel Murray, our musical director, Laura Hall. And then we'll have guests with us. We'll probably have Dave Foley from The Kids in the Hall and Gary Anthony Williams from Whose Line. And he plays Uncle Ruckus on Boondocks. And I think that's everything I'm plugging. Yeah. And then I'll be at the Punchline on New Year's Eve for 4 shows. It's not on a weekend because this year's so funky. Mm-hmm. It's when is it? It's
Isn't it Wednesday?
Monday and Tuesday next week.
Oh, I'm
wrong. Wednesday's New Year's Day, and as you know,
right.
all is quiet. But we'll be on the Punchline for 2 shows: Monday the 30th and Tuesday the 31st, which disorients everyone because then they are really drunk, and then the next day is Thursday or whatever.
Yeah, I know. Now I'm having to reorient because I've been thinking the woohoo part of the holiday is Wednesday, but it's not. Wednesday is just the actual bank holiday or what, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Which I do. Tuesday night is the big woohoo.
Tuesday night's the big woohoo, and Wednesday is the survivor's breakfast. And
Exactly. Tony, what about you?
Just Instagram at Tony Thaxton, and a little ways away, but I'm sure it'll sneak up. I'll be in Australia touring with Motion City Soundtrack in April.
What?
Wonderful. He's
what are they called?
Star drummer.
Motion City Soundtrack.
Is that a band?
Yeah, I play drums in that band. Yeah.
Fantastic. Are you going all over Australia?
Yes, I believe it's it's like five or 6 shows, I think. Australia is weird, as I'm sure you've probably been many times. It's just you got to fly everywhere because it's so spread out. So, yeah, all over is a weird statement. Yeah.
Well, you'll have fun. You'll love it.
Yeah.
You have 2 gold records, right? 1 or 2?
Yeah. 2.
That. Now, you used to have one behind you. What happened? Did you?
It's in a different room. Oh, I think that was at the old house.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought maybe you had a crisis of humility.
No. Are you kidding me? It's killing me that I don't physically have the second one yet. But
yeah, you should put it in the room in which you Zoom.
Well, I didn't think we were going to be Zooming anymore.
One can never cross off Zooming from the possibilities.
Right.
Okay, I've already mentioned my Substack. Hopefully, I've whet your appetite. AllisonRosen.substack.com. Also, I'm on Patreon. patreon.com/Allison Rosen. All sorts of fun stuff over there. You can get behind the scenes content. You can find out how I really feel about things. And you can get episodes of The Friend Zone. That is my Patreon podcast. And there's a level where you can text me and I'll text you back. And I text a little update every morning. And I thought, is this too much? But so far, people are loving it. All of that at patreon.com/Allison Rosen. And if you do an annual subscription, you get 2 months free.
Are you wanting that?
That's a good deal.
Yeah, I am. No,
Really awesome.
If you do an annual subscription, you get 2 months free.
That's awesome.
Thank you very much. All right, fine. You can get all my stuff at AllisonRosen.com. Thank you so much, Greg.
Thank you
so much, Tony. Listeners, thank you for listening. I love you. You matter. Goodbye.
Hey, do you know about the Allison Rosen show?